This is Michiana's breaking news and weather station.
MNC.
News Talk 95.3 FM and 95.3MNC.com.
MNC News Time 5:05. I'm Amelia Lee in the MNC News Center.
And good morning, I'm John Zimeny. It is the 6th day of May, 2022. And the news getting started now with our top local stories on Michiana's Morning News.
Some good economic news to start off this morning, as a major recreational vehicle show will return to Elkhart after a 2-year hiatus because of the COVID-19 pandemic.
3 of the largest RV manufacturers, Thor Industries, Forest River, and Winnebago Industries, will proceed with the 4-day showing. Will proceed with a 4-day show beginning September 26th. The South Bend Tribune reports the massive dealer-only show, which allows retailers to see the latest offerings from the RV manufacturers and suppliers, was canceled in 2020 and in 2021. Most RV manufacturers are reporting a backlog of orders from dealers despite a record 600,000 RVs produced in 2021. Beyond RV makers, the show is expected to draw at least 130 suppliers who offer original equipment and RV accessories. Josh Williams, MNC News.
The 5 o'clock news brought to you by Burkholder Buildings and Supply. If it can be built in an office, a farm, or anywhere else, Burkholder is the highest quality for any need. Burkholder Buildings and Supply can help. Call today. The St. Joseph County property taxes are hitting homeowners in the wallet hard this year.
Some residents are seeing increases of 100% or more. WSBT says that there is a twofold reason why people are seeing such a spike in their taxes. First, the county did a study on land values this year. An analysis on the base rates hadn't been performed since 2012. That, paired with the annual adjustment to the housing market, is seeing jumps of 50 to 100%. Residents have until June 15th to file an appeal, and it's recommended that they do so sooner rather than later if they intend to. Tommy Lee, MNC News.
Traffic and weather this hour brought to you by the X-Fog and iFog system. Whether it's for work or play, keep your protective eyewear on and clear. Visit exfog.com today.
Coming up in 60 seconds, South Bend police crime meetings for the public are back on the schedule. MNC News Time 5:09.
MNC News Time 5:10. This part of Michiana's Morning News brought to you by the R&B Car Company. With a huge inventory of quality pre-owned vehicles, cars, crossovers, trucks, SUVs, and minivans. Shop today at rbcarcompany.com. Now the local news watch continues.
St. Joseph County Police arrested a wanted man after a chase Thursday morning. It began with an effort to serve a warrant on Prescott Avenue. The suspect fled south on State Road 933 in the direction of Roseland. The suspect left the vehicle and was tased a short time later. He was taken into custody without incident and will face a number of charges after being arrested for felony theft and escape.
A shooting early on Thursday morning sent one person to the hospital in Michigan City. Police arrived at the 200 block of Thurman Avenue to find one person shot in the arm. The victim was taken to Franciscan Health Michigan City Hospital then with non-life-threatening injuries. So far, no suspects have been announced.
If you have questions about crime in your neighborhood, the South Bend Police Department is pleased to announce the return of their monthly crime stat meetings.
The meetings, which were paused during the COVID-19 pandemic, take place on the second Wednesday of each month at 6:30 in the South Bend Police Department Auditorium at 701 West Sample Street. The public is welcome to attend to find out what's been reported crime-wise in their own neighborhoods. The next meeting is set for this coming Wednesday night. Victor Garcia, MNC News.
Checking political news at 5:11, the Democrats' reaction to the possibility of Roe v. Wade being overturned is not very statesmanlike. That's according to Indiana Republican Senator Todd Young.
We heard the President of the United States, we heard Chuck Schumer and others almost threaten the Supreme Court by packing them, threaten the Supreme Court by indicating that the American people are going to rise up.
And he also brushes off the suggestion that the abortion issue will cause a backlash in the November election. Young says voters are still focused on things like inflation as well as border security.
New this morning, more than 55,000 additional claimants won't have to pay back unemployment overpayments totaling $431 million from the Michigan Unemployment Agency during the COVID-19 pandemic.
The Michigan Unemployment Insurance Agency has to date waived more than $4.3 billion of overpayments to residents, totaling 400,000 claimants who were improperly awarded pandemic unemployment benefits. Many were worried about having to pay back funds after hundreds of thousands of Michigan residents received letters in the summer of 2021 informing them that they would have to reapply for eligibility. Of those residents who received letters, about half who had been deemed eligible for the benefits were later found ineligible. The overpayments were the result of chronic miscommunication between the UIA and the U.S. Department of Labor. Members of the state and federal governments have disagreed about who is responsible. Michael McIntyre, MNC News.
And this Sunday, the South Bend Cubs will be wearing pink jerseys for Pink in the Park. It's a program presented by the Indiana WIC program from the State Department of Health. All of the game-worn jerseys then will be auctioned off throughout the week, and you can find a link to place a bid at 953mnc.com.
You can take 95.3 MNC anywhere, anytime. Download the 95.3 MNC app on your smartphone for live audio and access to the top stories on demand. Look for the free app in the App Store.
And up next on Michiana's Morning News, we have the top trending stories.
Now, the top trending stories from 95.3 MNC and 95.3mnc.com.
MNC News Time 5:15. The website Stacker has compiled a list of the most popular baby names for girls in the 70s in Indiana using data from the Social Security Administration. From 1970 to 1979, the number one name on the list was Jennifer. Angela, Amy, Melissa, and Michelle rounded out the top 5. Jennifer was also the number one ranking nationally that year.
The man accused of attacking comedian Dave Chappelle at the Hollywood Bowl's facing 4 misdemeanor charges. Los Angeles City Attorney Mike Fewer lists the charges facing Isaiah Lee.
My office has filed charges alleging battery, possession of a weapon with the intent to assault, and charges relating to interfering with a performance.
Police say Lee was carrying a replica gun with a knife blade inside when he attacked Chappelle. Security guards chased and overpowered Lee, who was carted off then by ambulance.
At a Nantucket, Massachusetts annual town meeting this week, the Gender Equality on Beaches bylaw amendment passed by a wide margin.
It's all in the name of gender equality. If men can go topless at the beach, why can't women? That was the reasoning behind this measure in the first place. The measure changes the island's bylaws to allow any person to be topless on public and private beaches. Currently, the law says that only men can go topless in public, and women who do can face a fine or even possibly jail time.
Brought to you by the X-Fog Anti-Fog System. Whether it's for work or play, keep your protective eyewear on and clear. Visit exfog.com today.
Coming up next on Michiana's Morning News, more crime victims in Michigan may be eligible to receive money. MNC News Time 5:19.
Michiana's Morning News continues on News Talk 95.3, Michiana's news channel, your breaking news and weather station.
Happy Friday. We finally made it to the end of the week. And don't forget, Mother's Day is Sunday. And a gift from Mother Nature coming up, too. We'll talk about that here in just a second. Wet weather, though, back for your early Friday with downpours possible later at times today. In total, an inch of rain is possible throughout tonight. There's not a lot of flooding concern for the metro area, though. The weather improves through the Mother's Day weekend. Here's the gift. Temperatures rising and clouds breaking. Highs will reach the 80s by the middle of next week. Ooh, finally, relief.
A survey of more than 12,000 workers suggests that 30% would quit their job if their employer made them go back to the office full time. And now that the COVID numbers are slowing, many workers are faced with that choice. This data analysis quit her job for a new job that would allow her to stay at home.
We're more productive at home. We're happier at home. We're doing what the company asks of us. And so going back in is only really a form of micromanaging. We don't want any part of it.
According to PeopleKeep.com, the most sought after job benefits these days are working from home, a flexible schedule, and a 4-hour work week.
And eligibility for a Michigan fund that reimburses crime victims and their survivors for health care costs and funeral expenses could be expanded under a bill that was passed by the legislature.
Michigan has the lowest application rate nationally for accessing victim compensation funds, and in 2018, about a third of applications were denied. Current law allows funding eligibility for victims, a person who was harmed intervening on behalf of a victim, and concerned family members or representatives affiliated with a victim. The new legislation refines the language of who can apply and would allow reimbursement for primary caregivers of victims. The current law requires claimants to file for reimbursement within 1 year of the crime and says the claimant is not eligible if the crime was not reported to law enforcement within 48 hours. Critics, though, argue that the financial implications of holding a funeral, seeking psychological help, and recouping from time lost from work are not always at the forefront of people's minds. Michael McIntyre, MNC News.
Coming up next on Michiana's Morning News, traffic, weather, and the lowest gas prices. MNC News Time 5.
This is Michiana's breaking news and weather station.
MNC
News Talk 95.3 FM and 95.3MNC.com.
MNC News Time 5:32. I'm Amelia Lee in the MNC News Center.
And I'm John Zimeny. Michiana's Morning News continues now with our top local stories.
Neighbors are voicing their concern after the suspicious death of an 8-year-old in St. Joseph, Michigan.
Public safety officers from the St. Joseph Police Department were called Tuesday afternoon to a home on Columbia Avenue where the child was found deceased. Neighbors told ABC 57 they haven't seen many kids on the street and are shocked that something like this could happen in their neighborhood. Michigan Child Protective Services spoke with an individual on the property but has not released any comment. An autopsy will be conducted at Western Michigan University. Police do not believe there's any threat to the public at this time in regards to the child's death. Tommy Lee, MNC News.
The 5:30 newscast is brought to you by Burkholder Buildings and Supply. If it can be built in an office, farm, or anywhere else, Burkholder has the highest quality for any need. Burkholder Buildings and Supply can help. Call them today. MNC News Time 5:32. One person's recovering after a shooting early Thursday in Michigan City. Police arrived at the 200 block of Thurman Avenue to find a person with a bullet wound to the arm. The victim was taken to Franciscan Health Hospital in Michigan City with non-life-threatening injuries. So far, no suspects have been announced.
A Fort Wayne man has been found guilty of attempting to kill a man in Millersburg in 2018. 49-year-old Curtis Shank was arrested in 2020 for shooting the victim multiple times. Shank pleaded guilty to being a habitual criminal and will face jail time for that as well as attempted murder. Sentencing is set for June 2nd.
A Morocco, Indiana man's been arrested for making threats toward the Indiana Supreme Court.
Indiana State Capitol Police started investigating who was sending the threats in late February of 2020. Police say that 26-year-old David Getz II sent threatening emails to the Indiana Supreme Court justices. He also called the court in April, leaving threatening voicemails. A warrant was later issued for Getz's arrest, and he was taken into custody on May 4th. He was booked on 2 counts of intimidation. Caleb Hatch, MNC News.
The very latest now as Republican lawmakers in Indiana don't want to wait till the next session in January to limit abortion.
I'm Eric Berman. 64 House members and 36 senators signed a letter to Governor Holcomb in March requesting a special session if the Supreme Court strikes down Roe v. Wade or scales it back. House Speaker Todd Houston repeated that call after the leak of a draft opinion doing just that. Holcomb says it's still just a draft and says he'll need to review the actual opinion once it's handed down.
It's obviously an option on the table. Haven't taken anything off, but I'll wait until we see a final formal decision by the Supreme Court.
Holcomb says a lot could happen between now and the decision, which is expected next month. Eric Berman, Network Indiana.
MNC News Time 5:34. New this morning, the city of Indianapolis is getting an immigration court, and there's already thousands of cases on the docket.
The new court is expected to make a dent in the 40,000 pending immigration cases in Indiana. Advocates hope that a court in Indianapolis will allow more people to make their court date and prevent a deportation order. Right now, the closest immigration court is in Chicago. Immigration officials say the Indianapolis court is scheduled to open sometime next year, though they are not being any more specific than that. Ian Randall, MNC News.
High school students can work out for free this summer at Planet Fitness and have a chance to win a scholarship. They're offering a free high school summer pass membership for students age 14 to 19. Those who sign up will be entered to win a $500 scholarship. There will also be a grand prize $5,000 scholarship. Registration information can be found at their website.
And don't forget, you can take 95.3 MNC anywhere, anytime, even while you're doing your weekend. Your traffic and weather this hour is brought to you by the X-Fog anti-fog system. Whether it's for work or play, keep your protective eyewear on and clear. Visit exfog.com today.
Coming up in 2 minutes, a check of the world around you with Bill O'Reilly and the O'Reilly Morning Update. MNC News Time 5:38.
Now, the top trending stories from 95.3 MNC and 95.3MNC.com.
MNC News Time 5:45. The Michigan Department of Natural Resources has received several reports of a black bear in a rural part of Cass County. It's not believed that livestock in the area are under any immediate threat, but the bear likely does not pose a threat. However, the DNR recommends that people make sure bird feed is put away and their trash is secure.
The Indianapolis Motor Speedways announced new changes to the gate and cooler policies. Fans were allowed to bring coolers smaller than 18 by 14 by 14 inside the gates. Coolers can be hard or soft, but any coolers larger than 18 by 14 will be banned. And with that, food and beverages will be permitted through the gates.
The real estate market is so hot right now that a $75,000 home known to be contaminated with methamphetamine had no problem finding a buyer. Shane Woodworth of Salt Lake City is the owner of Crime Scene Cleaners.
It does shock people to know that there's meth in their neighborhood for sure. A lot of what we see are just lower levels from people using and not necessarily manufacturing. A lot of people live in them and are just fine, but there's a small percentage of people that really do get very sick from these contaminated homes and living there.
He says having the work done on an average home costs around $4,000.
WTRC FM and HD1, Niles, South Bend, Elkhart. News Talk 95.3, Michiana's news channel.